What if breaking the law could cost you everything? Your money, your freedom, and your reputation, all at once. Welcome to Singapore, the city where crime simply does not pay. Imagine walking through a city at 2 in the morning, alone, with your phone in your hand and your bag over your shoulder, and feeling completely safe. No looking over your shoulder, no quickening your pace, no fear. That is everyday life in Singapore. This tiny island nation, smaller than many cities in the world, consistently ranks as one of the safest places on the entire planet. Its crime rate is so jaw-droppingly low that tourists are genuinely shocked. Locals leave their laptops on cafe tables to save seats. Children ride public transport alone. Phones are left unattended. So how does a densely packed city of nearly 6 million people, a cultural melting pot with one of the busiest ports in the world, maintain such extraordinary order? The answer is not luck. It is not geography. It is an intentional, multi-layered system built over decades. Today, we are breaking it all down. 10 powerful reasons why Singapore keeps crime so incredibly low. Point 1. Strict laws and severe punishments. Singapore operates on a very simple principle. If the punishment is painful enough, most people will think twice before committing a crime. And they mean it. Vandalism can earn you a public caning. Drug trafficking carries the death penalty. Even chewing gum in public spaces was once banned. These are not scare tactics. These are enforced realities. The laws are written to be unmistakably clear, and the courts apply them without hesitation. There is no ambiguity, no gray area. Citizens grow up knowing exactly where the line is and exactly what happens when you cross it. Critics around the world debate whether such strict laws are fair, but the results speak for themselves. When consequences are real, predictable, and severe, the vast majority of people simply choose not to take that risk. Singapore bet on deterrence from the very beginning, and that bet has paid off for over 50 years. Point 2. Zero tolerance for corruption. One of the most powerful weapons Singapore has against crime is a clean government. The Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, or CPIB, is one of the most feared agencies in the country. It investigates corruption at every level, including ministers, senior officials, and police officers. Nobody is above scrutiny. In many countries, corruption quietly funds crime networks and weakens law enforcement. In Singapore, that rot never had the chance to take root. When founding leader Lee Kuan Yew built the nation, he made a deliberate decision to pay civil servants and officials competitive salaries, reducing the temptation to take bribes. He understood that a corrupt system produces corrupt outcomes. By eliminating corruption at the foundation, Singapore built a law enforcement system that people actually trust, and a government that people actually respect. That trust is priceless. Point 3. An extremely effective police force. The Singapore police force is not just well-funded, it is deeply woven into everyday life. Officers are not just seen in emergencies, they're visible at hawker centers, MRT stations, community events, and neighborhood patrols. Singapore uses a policing model called community policing, where officers build genuine relationships with the residents they serve. There are neighborhood police posts scattered across the island, making help feel close and accessible. Officers are highly trained, well-paid, and held to strict professional standards. Response times are among the fastest in the world, and because corruption within the force is aggressively prosecuted, citizens can actually trust the police, which means they are more willing to report suspicious activity, cooperate with investigations, and serve as the eyes and ears of public safety. An effective police force is not just about catching criminals, it is about preventing crime before it starts. Point 4. Surveillance technology and smart city infrastructure. Singapore is one of the most surveilled cities in the world, and it makes no apologies for it. Tens of thousands of cameras are mounted across the island, covering roads, public transport, housing estates, shopping centers, and public spaces. Facial recognition systems, license plate readers, and AI-powered monitoring tools work around the clock. The government openly frames this as a safety feature, and most Singaporeans support it. When people know they are being watched, they are far less likely to misbehave. And when crimes do occur, investigators have high-resolution footage to work with. Singapore is also constantly upgrading its technology. Drones patrol certain areas, smart lampposts collect data, command centers monitor the city in real time. Critics raise valid concerns about privacy, but for the majority of Singaporeans, the trade-off feels worthwhile. Safety, in their view, is not free. It comes with a degree of transparency in public life. Point 5. Strong social cohesion and community values. Singapore is a multiracial, multi-religious society. Chinese, Malay, Indian, Eurasian, and dozens of other communities living side by side. Historically, this kind of diversity has been a source of tension in other nations. Singapore made a conscious choice to treat it as a strength. Racial harmony is not just encouraged, it is legally protected. The Maintenance of Religious Harmony Act keeps tensions from escalating. Public housing estates are designed to ensure ethnic integration, so no neighborhood becomes exclusively one race. Children of all backgrounds go to the same schools. Citizens grow up seeing each other as Singaporeans first. When a society has strong bonds of trust and shared identity, crime becomes a violation not just of the law, but of the community. People look out for their neighbors, they report suspicious behavior, they invest in the safety of shared spaces because those spaces genuinely feel like theirs. Point 6. The public housing system reduces inequality. One of the most underappreciated reasons Singapore has low crime is economic. Over 80% of Singaporeans live in government-built public housing, known as HDB flats. But unlike public housing in many other countries, these are not ghettos of poverty. They are clean, well-maintained, and equipped with amenities. And critically, they are spread across all income levels. Wealthy families and lower-income families live in the same neighborhoods. This policy fundamentally prevents the formation of extreme poverty pockets, areas of concentrated desperation that historically breed crime in other cities. When people have stable shelter, functioning infrastructure, access to good schools and healthcare, and a realistic path to a better life, they are far less likely to turn to crime out of hopelessness. Singapore understood early that housing is not just shelter, it is social policy, it is crime prevention, it is nation building. Point 7. Education as a foundation for discipline. From a very young age, Singaporean children are taught discipline, respect, and responsibility. The education system is famously rigorous, not just academically, but in terms of character. Schools have clear codes of conduct. Teachers are respected authority figures. Punctuality, integrity, and personal accountability are instilled early. Students learn that hard work leads to opportunity, and that shortcuts have consequences. The system is not perfect, and the pressure it places on young people is a legitimate debate. But one outcome is undeniable. Singaporean youth grow up with a strong internal compass. They understand rules, they respect institutions, and they have been given real opportunities to build a meaningful life within the system. When people believe that playing by the rules actually works, that the system rewards effort fairly, they are far less likely to step outside those rules. Point 8. Tough drug laws with serious enforcement. Singapore has one of the toughest drug policies in the world, and it enforces them without exception. Trafficking more than a certain amount of controlled substances carries a mandatory death sentence. Even possession leads to long prison terms and mandatory rehabilitation. Drug testing can be conducted on anyone suspected of use, including testing urine samples when entering from abroad. The Central Narcotics Bureau conducts regular raids and sting operations. For anyone caught in the system, rehabilitation is compulsory, and it is intensive. Singapore made a calculated decision early on that it would not allow a drug culture to take root, because history has shown repeatedly that drug markets fuel violent crime, organized crime, and social breakdown. By being relentlessly aggressive on this front, Singapore avoided an epidemic that has devastated entire cities in other parts of the world. Whether you agree with the approach or not, the absence of a drug crime nexus in Singapore is a major reason its streets stay safe. Point 9. Active citizen participation in safety. Singapore does not rely solely on the government and police to maintain order. Citizens are actively involved. The Neighborhood Watch Scheme encourages residents to monitor their communities and report unusual activity. Community emergency response teams train ordinary people to handle crises. Citizens on patrol groups walk beats alongside police officers. There are even mobile apps that allow people to report crimes or suspicious behavior directly to authorities. This creates a culture where safety is a shared responsibility, not something you outsource to the state and forget about. When every resident feels personally invested in the security of their neighborhood, the information flow to law enforcement becomes incredibly powerful. Crime has fewer places to hide. Suspicious behavior gets noticed faster, and potential criminals know that it is not just the police they need to worry about, it is the entire community around them. Point 10. Rehabilitation over pure punishment. Despite having some of the strictest laws in the world, Singapore also invests heavily in rehabilitation. The Singapore Prison Service has a motto: rehab, renew, restart. First-time and non-violent offenders are given real opportunities to reform. Programs inside prisons cover vocational training, education, counseling, and family reintegration. After release, ex-offenders are supported in finding jobs through agencies like the Yellow Ribbon Project. Employers are encouraged to give them a second chance. The logic is straightforward. A person who is truly rehabilitated does not reoffend. Locking someone up and releasing them with nothing changes nothing, but equipping them with skills, purpose, and social reintegration, that breaks the cycle of crime for good. Singapore manages to be simultaneously strict and humane, and that balance is part of why its recidivism rates are among the lowest in the world. So there you have it, 10 deeply interconnected reasons why Singapore remains one of the safest places on Earth. Strict laws that deter crime before it starts, a government free of corruption, a police force that the public actually trusts, technology that blankets the city with eyes and intelligence, a social fabric that binds communities together, housing policies that eliminate the desperation that breeds crime, an education system that builds character, the toughest drug laws on the planet, citizens who actively participate in keeping their neighborhoods safe, and a rehabilitation system that gives people a genuine path forward. None of these factors work in isolation. Together, they form a system so coherent and comprehensive that crime simply has very little room to breathe. Singapore is not perfect. No society is. The trade-offs it makes, particularly around individual freedoms and surveillance, are debated around the world. But as a model for public safety in a complex, diverse, modern city, it is hard to argue with the results. If you found this video insightful, share it with someone who loves learning about how the world really works. And if there's another country or city you want us to examine next, drop it in the comments below. We read every single one.